The spaceport of Valor never truly slept. Its ceilings rose like the inside of a metal cathedral, filled with neon signs, glowing gates, and constant announcements in dozens of alien tongues. Beings of every size and shape moved in steady streams. Scaled merchants dragging heavy carts, feathered travelers speaking into translators, metallic drones carrying packages. It was a place where millions passed unnoticed. And then she arrived. She looked ordinary, at least from a distance. A human woman, wrapped in a simple dark coat, carrying only a small travel bag. Her face showed nothing unusual, calm, quiet, even a little weary. She stood in line like the rest, waiting her turn for security. To the crowd, she was nobody. But the machines saw differently. The security gates were not simple scanners. They were ancient devices built by a dozen species together, able to read not just weapons or smuggled goods, but memories locked inside the body, residues of battles fought, energy hidden in scars. For most beings, the light turned green in seconds. Harmless, safe, clear. When the woman stepped forward, the scanner glowed blue and spread its light across her skin. For a moment, everything seemed normal. The line moved, the guards watched with tired eyes. She stood straight, silent, steady. Then the light changed. A harsh red beam struck across her body, tracing the marks that lay hidden beneath her clothes. The sound of the machine cracked through the air, louder, sharper than anyone had ever heard before. The crowd froze. The machine's voice, mechanical yet shaken, echoed through the terminal. Unidentified scars detected. Origin, unrecorded. Resonance, divine. The line behind her stumbled back. Travelers gasped. Even the guards who had stood bored and half asleep now snapped to attention. The scanner did not stop. Its voice rose, louder, demanding. Subject bears marks of celestial conflict. Confirm. Have you fought a god and lived? The entire terminal went silent. For one long second, no one breathed. Even the endless announcements from the intercom seemed to die away. The question hung in the air like thunder, echoing again and again. Have you fought a god and lived? The woman did not answer. She did not move. Her face was still, her eyes lowered, as though she had expected this moment for years. But the crowd reacted. Whispers broke out. Alien tongues tangled in fear and disbelief. The scanner lies. It must be broken. No machine has ever spoken of gods. A human? Impossible. Humans are fragile creatures. Unless she carries something inside her. The guards approached, weapons drawn. They did not point them directly at her, but the tension in their grips betrayed fear. Their training told them to be firm. Their instincts told them to be careful. None of them had ever faced what the scanner suggested. Children clung to their parents. Merchants pulled their carts away. Even soldiers from warlike species, scarred and armored, took half a step back. The woman raised her eyes at last. For the first time, the crowd saw them clearly. Tired eyes, yes, but eyes that had seen storms no one else could imagine. There was no panic in her gaze, only a heavy patience, as though she had carried this weight too long. The machine buzzed again, struggling to explain what it had found. Scars bear energy trace unmatched in records. Probability of survival against celestial entity. Less than 0.01%. Conclusion. Anomaly. Anomaly. That word echoed almost as strongly as God. The guards gave her a command. Step aside. You must come with us. Their voices were loud but nervous, their movements sharp but cautious. She obeyed without resistance. Slowly, she lifted her small bag and stepped out of the line. The crowd split open around her, as if she carried fire in her steps. People turned their faces away, but still peeked with wide, curious eyes. As she was led away, the whispers grew louder, carried through the terminal like a storm. Some called her cursed. Some called her chosen. A few whispered prayers. A few muttered threats. And yet, she said nothing. The scanner flickered one last time. Its light trembled, as if even the machine itself did not believe what it had detected. Then, in a final cold voice, it spoke. Unresolved presence. Subject carries resonance of divinity. Record incomplete. The silence after those words was deafening. For the crowd, it was a story they would tell for years. The day a human walked through Valor Port and the machine itself asked her if she had fought a god. For the guards, it was the beginning of fear. Machines did not invent questions. If the scanner spoke, it spoke truth. And for her, the woman who walked quietly between armored escorts, it was not surprise. It was not fear. It was only the return of a shadow she had hoped to leave behind. Her scars had been carved by a battle no one else believed. A battle that had left her alive when no one should have survived. The galaxy had just been reminded of something it tried to forget. That even gods could bleed. And as she disappeared into the long corridor beyond the security gates, she felt the stir of that ancient voice deep inside her scars, whispering from the darkness. "We are not finished." The woman's quiet footsteps faded as the guards led her into the inner corridors of the port. But the silence she left behind in the terminal was louder than any alarm. Thousands of beings stood frozen, eyes still fixed on the scanner that had dared to speak of gods. Then the whispers began. At first, only a murmur, nervous breaths, muttered words. But soon, the sound spread like ripples across water. Every group spoke in low tones, voices shaking with fear or rising with excitement. The ordinary routine of the spaceport was broken. Nobody cared about departure schedules or cargo lists anymore. "She fought a god?" One feathered merchant hissed to another. His long beak clicked nervously. "The machine said it. Machines cannot lie." "But she was human," another argued. "A weak race, flesh too soft, bones too thin. How could such a creature face a divine being?" A scaled soldier spat on the floor, his tail lashing. Perhaps it was not her. Perhaps the scars belonged to something that touched her. If that's true, then the god may still watch through her eyes. That suggestion sent shivers across the listeners. Some clutched charms of protection. Others tightened their robes, glancing at the dark corners of the terminal as if a shadow would descend at any moment. The scanner itself flickered weakly, its red light dimming back to green. But no one trusted it anymore. For years it had been a symbol of safety, a machine that detected every threat before harm could be done. Now it had shaken the galaxy's belief with a single question. In one corner, an alien child tugged at his father's cloak. "Father, what is a god? Why would a human fight one?" His eyes were wide, innocent, yet filled with the same fear that gripped the adults. The father's voice was rough. "A god is not meant to be fought. A god is to be obeyed. That woman, she is cursed." He pulled his child closer, dragging him away from the crowd. Not all agreed. Near the boarding gates, a group of traders whispered with a different tone, half in awe, half in admiration. "Do you not see? She lived. The machine said survival was impossible, yet she stands. If she faced a god and survived, perhaps she is chosen. Perhaps she is proof that even gods can be beaten." The idea spread like fire. Some laughed at it, calling it madness, but others held onto it as a dangerous hope. Meanwhile, the guards at the security post argued among themselves. Their armor gleamed under the port lights, but their voices trembled. "What do we report?" one asked. "The truth," another muttered, though his eyes darted nervously to the scanner. "But what is the truth? If the machine believes she fought a god, the council will demand her at once. And if it is wrong?" "Machines are not wrong." The whispers in the terminal grew darker. Travelers from war-torn planets began to argue. If a god existed, did that mean more were coming? Was the universe still ruled by beings greater than fleets, greater than empires? And if so, was this woman the warning or the weapon? One tall insectoid creature lifted its voice above the others. "Mark my words," it hissed. "That human is not a survivor. She is a vessel. A god lives inside her, waiting for the moment to return." That single statement caused a ripple of fear so sharp that several travelers immediately abandoned their boarding lines, choosing instead to leave the port entirely. Ships that had been waiting for clearance now pushed for quick departure. Pilots whispered into their comms, reporting unsettled conditions at Valor Port. In the shadows of the terminal, a cloaked figure listened carefully. His face was hidden, but his eyes glowed faintly under the hood. He did not whisper like the others. He watched. He memorized. Then, quietly, he slipped away, following the same path the guards had taken with the woman. Back in the main hall, tension thickened. The ordinary life of the port had collapsed into two camps. Those who feared her presence as a curse, and those who believed her scars were a sign of strength. Fear and faith twisted together until no one knew which voice was louder. Above them all, the scanner gave one final flicker. For a breathless moment, its speakers clicked on again. A distorted voice, softer than before, whispered, "Energy unresolved. Subject may awaken or return. Probability unknown." Then the machine went dead. Its lights dimmed completely, leaving only silence. That silence was not peace. It was the silence before a storm. In that silence, the story had already taken root. Across the galaxy, news of what happened in Valor would spread. Fast, unstoppable, carried by mouths and messages, twisted into tales of fear and legend. But in the terminal itself, the truth was simpler. A human woman had walked through the scanner. The scanner had spoken of gods, and the universe would never look at humans the same way again. The woman was led through long metal corridors, far away from the busy terminal. The walls here were silent, lined with glowing panels, the air colder than outside. The guards walked stiffly, their weapons close, though none dared touch her. Every few steps, one of them glanced at her scars as if they might move or glow on their own. Finally, they stopped at a steel door. It slid open with a sharp hiss. Inside was a room with a single table and two chairs. A pale light shone from above, making the shadows stretch across the floor. The walls were bare, except for a large screen that pulsed faintly, connected directly to the security scanners. "Sit," one guard ordered, though his voice trembled slightly. The woman obeyed without a word. She placed her bag on the ground and folded her hands on the table. Her calmness unsettled the guards more than any resistance would have. Moments later, an officer entered. He was tall, his armor marked with silver stripes showing high rank. His face was stern, but his eyes betrayed caution. He had read the report, he knew what the scanner had said. He sat across from her, tapping the screen so it glowed to life. Holograms of her body appeared, with red marks circling the scars traced by the scanner. Energy waves pulsed across the image, unstable and bright. "You know why you are here," the officer began. His voice was measured, careful. The machine spoke of things it was never built to speak. Said your scars are not ordinary. It said, they carry divine resonance. The woman remained silent. She stared at the table, her face unreadable. The officer leaned forward. "I will ask plainly, what cut you? What scarred your flesh in such a way that a scanner of the Federation cannot classify it? Was it war? A weapon? Or," his voice lowered, "was it truly something greater?" Her lips parted slightly, as though she might speak, but no words came. The officer's hand slammed the table. "Answer!" The lights in the room flickered. The screen shook as if reacting to her heartbeat. The guards raised their weapons, fear sharp in their eyes. But the woman only whispered, soft and steady, "I did not choose the fight. The fight chose me." The officer frowned. "What do you mean?" Her eyes lifted, meeting his for the first time. In that moment he felt a weight, as though looking into a storm. "My colony," she said slowly, "was not attacked by soldiers. It was not burned by fleets. It was touched by something else. A being worshipped by zealots as a god. They called it eternal. They called it endless. To us, it was only death." The room grew colder. Even the guards seemed to stop breathing. She continued, her voice heavy but steady. "It came like a shadow across the stars. Weapons failed. Cities fell silent. Those who knelt to it were spared, but enslaved. Those who resisted were erased. I stood. I fought. And it marked me." Her hand moved across her own scars, tracing them lightly. The screen behind her flared brighter, reacting to the energy within. The officer spoke again, his voice lower now. And yet you live. No colony has ever survived such a thing. No mortal has ever faced a divine being and walked away. Her answer was quiet. I should not have lived. Others fell where I stood. But when its strike landed, something broke, and something stayed. It did not kill me. It carved me open and left me breathing. One of the guards whispered, unable to hold back. So, you carry it inside you. The woman's gaze shifted toward him, calm yet sharp. I carry the memory, and perhaps more. At night, I hear its voice. In battle, I feel its strength. But I am still me. These scars are proof, not of worship, but of survival. The officer studied her long and hard. He wanted to dismiss it as madness, as the trauma of war. But the readings on the screen told another story. Energy unlike any recorded flowed through her body. Not technology, not biology, something beyond. Finally, he asked the question that burned in every mind. Is it dead? Her silence stretched too long. She closed her eyes, remembering the last moment. The blinding strike, the roar that shattered the air, the sudden stillness when the being vanished. Did she kill it, or did it leave her marked for its return? Her eyes opened, and she spoke only one sentence. I do not know. The officer leaned back slowly, his armor creaking. The guards exchanged fearful looks. For a soldier, uncertainty was the worst answer of all. If the god she fought still lived, then the galaxy was not safe. If it was dead, then she was proof that even gods could fall. Either truth would shake empires. The silence in the room was broken only by the hum of the screen, pulsing brighter with every beat of her heart. The officer finally stood. You are no longer just a traveler. You are evidence of something the galaxy thought impossible. Until we know what you are, you will not walk free. He signaled the guards. They stepped closer, cautious as if approaching fire. The woman lowered her head but did not resist. Her voice was soft, almost to herself. You fear me, but you should fear what may come after me. As they led her away, the officer remained in the room, staring at the glowing scars on the hologram. For the first time in years, he felt the cold taste of dread. Because deep inside, he knew the truth. Machines did not invent stories. If the scanner spoke of a god, then a god had truly left its mark. And somewhere, perhaps, it was still watching. The woman sat in her holding cell, her hands resting quietly on her knees. The walls were metal, the lights dim, but her mind was far away. She no longer saw the cold prison around her. She saw fire. She saw shadows. She saw the day her world had ended. It began like any other morning on her colony. Children had played in the fields. Workers had gone to the mines. The sky had been blue, calm, safe. Then the light changed. The sun dimmed, as if something vast had spread across it. People had lifted their heads, confused. Then came the silence. No birds, no wind, no sound. A silence so complete it felt unnatural. She remembered how her body had stiffened before she even understood why. Instinct had screamed danger. And then the sky tore open. The thing descended not like a ship, but like a shadow given form. It had no fixed shape. At times it looked like a figure with endless arms. At others, it was a storm of light and fire. Its presence pressed on every living mind, forcing them to their knees. Even the strongest warriors dropped their weapons. Some began to chant, their voices shaking. The Eternal has come, but not all. Some resisted. She resisted. The first strike came like thunder. Houses broke apart, the ground split, and flames consumed the colony's heart. The people screamed, but their voices vanished under the roar of something greater than sound. She had picked up a weapon then, a rifle no stronger than a child's toy against what stood above them. Still, her hands had not shaken. She fired. Others joined her. Beams of light, shells of steel, all crashing against the being's body. But nothing touched it. The weapons dissolved before reaching its form, as if swallowed by the void. The being laughed, though it had no mouth. The sound was everywhere at once. Inside ears, inside bones, inside the mind. She remembered her heart racing, her lungs burning. Fear tried to choke her, but she stood. When its arm of fire struck the ground, she was there. She leapt aside, but the blast caught her. Her body was thrown across the dirt, seared by light that burned deeper than fire. Her skin tore open, scars carved by energy no doctor could explain. Pain consumed her, but still she rose. She looked up and met its gaze. It had eyes then, for a moment. Eyes like endless suns, staring straight into her soul. And in that instant, she felt it hesitate. For reasons she still did not understand, it did not finish her. It had crushed soldiers stronger than her, erased fortresses greater than her colony, but it left her alive. She had lifted her weapon again, though her arms trembled. She had shouted, her voice breaking, "You will not have us!" The words were foolish. They were hopeless. Yet something shifted. The being recoiled as if struck, though no bullet touched it. Energy sparked through the air, wild and uncontrolled. The ground shook. The sky cracked. For the first time, the eternal faltered. And then, without warning, it vanished. The battlefield fell silent. Smoke rose from shattered homes. The ground blackened and broken. The survivors crawled out from the ruins, their faces pale with horror. She had lain in the dirt, her body torn, her mind echoing with the laughter that still lingered. Her scars glowed faintly that night, pulsing with an energy no healer could cure. People looked at her with fear. Some whispered that she was blessed. Others whispered she was cursed. She had survived where no one should have. And deep inside, she knew survival was not victory. Even now, sitting in the cell years later, she could feel the same echo in her blood. When she closed her eyes, she heard its voice, mocking, endless, whispering that it had not been destroyed. The guards outside her cell spoke quietly, thinking she could not hear. She faced it. She carries it still. If the being returns, she may be the key or the doorway. She did not correct them. She knew the truth was worse. She had not defeated the eternal. She had only seen it pause. And if it had paused once, it could return again. Her scars burned lightly as if agreeing. She pressed her hand to them and whispered to herself, "Why me?" No answer came, only the hum of energy beneath her skin. But one thought stayed clear in her mind, sharper than fear. If the being came back, she would face it again. She had no choice, for she was not just scarred by it. She was marked, and marks were never left without reason. The woman's scars were no longer just her own. By now, the story had spread beyond the metal walls of the interrogation room, beyond the spaceport, beyond the system itself. What began as a whisper inside Valerport had turned into waves moving across the galaxy. Every traveler who had seen her at the scanner carried the tale with them. Some exaggerated it, some twisted it, but every version carried the same heart. A human walked through the scanner, and the machine asked if she had fought a god and lived. For empires built on control, this was dangerous. For soldiers trained to believe in weapons and fleets, it was terrifying. For ordinary people who prayed quietly to unseen powers, it was hope. Inside the council chambers of distant worlds, leaders argued. Some demanded she be locked away, hidden from sight before panic grew too large. Others argued she should be studied. If she truly carried divine energy, then perhaps she was the galaxy's most valuable weapon. But outside those chambers, on the streets and in the shadows, the people had their own thoughts. In marketplaces, traders whispered as they weighed goods. If one human survived a god, they muttered, "What else are humans hiding?" In military barracks, hardened soldiers spoke with unease. "We train against fleets, against armies, but how do you train against something divine? And if she carries its power, is she still human?" On holy worlds, priests fell to their knees, declaring her survival a sign. Some worshipped her already, even though she had never asked for it. They painted her scars on temple walls, calling her the mortal who defied the eternal. But not all worshipped. Fear grew sharper in others. Some whispered that she was cursed, that she carried not survival but infection, that through her, The god would one day return. Ships turned away from human colonies. Borders grew tighter. Trust in humanity weakened. Back in the spaceport, where she was still held, the guards themselves felt the weight of the galaxy's shifting mood. They spoke quietly, their voices uneasy. "This is bigger than her," one said. "If word spreads too far, panic will rise," another muttered. "But it already has," a third whispered. "It is too late. They will never look at humans the same again." Inside her cell, the woman felt the change even without hearing the news. The way the guards looked at her, half fear, half awe, told her everything. To them, she was no longer simply human. She was something else, something in between. When an officer entered her cell, his words confirmed it. "The council has heard of you," he said. "Half of them believe you are a savior. The other half believe you are a threat. Entire fleets are debating what should be done. Some want to protect you. Some want to erase you." She did not move. Her face was calm, but her heart tightened. She had lived through fire, survived the impossible, but she had never wanted to be a symbol. She only wanted to live, free of the shadow that had scarred her. Yet the galaxy had other plans. The officer continued, "Do you understand? You are not one person anymore. You are a story, and stories are dangerous. People fear what they cannot control." She finally looked up, her voice quiet but sharp. "Fear will not protect them. If the Eternal returns, their fear will burn with them." The officer flinched at her words. It was not anger in her tone, it was certainty. She did not speak as if she guessed. She spoke as if she knew. Outside the cell, unrest spread. Protesters began to gather at Valor Port, some demanding she be released, others demanding she be destroyed before she brought doom. News channels showed her blurred image, her scars glowing faintly, replayed again and again. Every replay fed both worship and terror. Somewhere, in the hidden corners of the galaxy, darker groups whispered of using her. If she truly carried divine energy, she could be weaponized. And if not, killing her might be seen as killing the god itself. The galaxy trembled on a knife's edge. And through it all, she remained silent. She did not beg for freedom, nor fight her cage. She simply sat, listening, waiting, because she understood something the galaxy did not. They feared her scars. They feared her survival. But what they should truly fear was not her. It was the thing that had marked her. For if the Eternal had left its mark upon her, it meant it had not been destroyed. It meant somewhere, in the dark beyond the stars, it still stirred. And when it returned, the galaxy would face not rumors, not whispers, not questions from a scanner, but the real voice of a god. The cell door opened with a hiss, and for the first time since her capture, someone different entered. He was not a soldier, not an officer, but a scholar. His robe was marked with golden threads, his eyes glowing faintly with the implants of knowledge keepers. He walked slowly, carrying no weapon, only a small device that pulsed with soft white light. The guards shifted nervously, but did not interfere. They knew who he was, a master historian from the council's archives, one of the few allowed to study forbidden records. He stopped in front of her. For a moment, he simply stared at her scars, his expression unreadable. Then he spoke, his voice calm but heavy with meaning. "I have seen many wounds in my studies, marks of plasma burns, blade strikes, energy cuts. But yours," he paused as if searching for words, "they are not wounds, they are inscriptions." The woman raised her eyes, finally curious. "Inscriptions?" "Yes," the scholar said, lifting the device. A beam of light spread over her scars. Symbols appeared on the screen, shapes that shifted and twisted as though alive. "These marks are not random. They are patterns. Ancient. Older than your species. Older than many galaxies. I have seen fragments of them on ruins buried in forgotten worlds. The language of beings once worshipped as gods." The guards stiffened. Even the officer who had been watching from the corner leaned forward. The woman remained still, though her heart raced. "So, they are not just scars." "No," the scholar whispered. "They are messages. a script carved into your flesh by something beyond mortal scale. You do not simply carry its power, you carry its memory. Her breath caught. A weight she had carried in silence for years now felt heavier. She remembered the moment of the strike, the fire, the voice, the endless gaze. She had thought the scars were a curse, proof she had survived. Now she understood. They were also a record. The scholar continued, his eyes burning with both awe and dread. The resonance inside you is not stable. It shifts as though waiting. You may not only have survived that being, you may carry a fragment of it still. The words fell like thunder. The guards whispered in panic. She carries it inside, one muttered. She is the doorway, another hissed. The woman clenched her fists. I am not its vessel. I am me. Her voice was sharp, unshaken, but inside, doubt stirred. The scholar tilted his head. Perhaps, but the question remains, did you defeat it, or did it choose to leave something behind in you? The room fell silent. Everyone waited for her answer, but she had no answer to give. She had lived, yes. She had fought, yes. But when it had vanished, had she struck a blow, or had it marked her for return? Her silence was enough. Fear grew heavier in the room. The scholar turned to the officer. If she is studied, if we learn to read the script, perhaps we can prepare. Perhaps her scars are warnings. Or instructions. The officer shook his head. Or they are traps. What if awakening them brings it back? The woman's scars burned faintly then, glowing under the light. She winced, placing her hand over them. Her breath grew heavy. In her mind, the voice echoed again. We are not gone. We are watching. She gasped softly. The scholar saw it. His voice turned urgent. You hear it, don't you? Her lips tightened. She did not want to answer, but her eyes betrayed the truth. The scholar's face paled. Then it is not just memory. It is presence. The guards stepped back, their fear thick as smoke. One whispered, she should be destroyed before it awakens fully. The woman rose slowly from her chair. The air shifted around her, the faint hum of her scars filling the room like static. She looked at them all, guards, officer, scholar, and said, steady and cold, I am not your weapon. I am not your curse. I am the proof that even gods can bleed. The words struck harder than any weapon. The officer froze. The scholar bowed his head. The guards dared not move. For a long moment no one spoke. Only the hum of her scars filled the silence. A sound that was not just hers but something older, deeper. Finally, the scholar whispered, if the god ever returns, you may be the only one who can face it again. Her answer was quiet, almost a whisper. Then let it come. The lights in the room flickered, as though the being itself had heard. And far away, beyond the stars, something stirred in the dark. The chamber was heavy with silence after the scholar's words. The guards dared not step closer. The officer stood frozen, caught between duty and fear. And the woman sat still, her scars faintly glowing, humming with a rhythm that did not belong to mortals. For years, she had carried them quietly, hiding them under cloth and silence. But now, in front of soldiers, scholars, and the galaxy beyond, the truth was open. Her scars were not just wounds. They were marks. They were warnings. They were proof. The officer finally broke the silence. His voice was strained, his eyes sharp. You cannot be allowed to walk free. You are too dangerous. If the being still lives inside you, then you are the doorway through which it may return. The guards nodded quickly, gripping their weapons tighter. Fear had made them braver but also more reckless. The scholar shook his head firmly. No, she is not the doorway. She is the shield. If the Eternal returns, we will need her. Destroying her would destroy the only chance the galaxy has. Their voices clashed in the chamber, but the woman did not look at them. She was listening to something else, the faint echo of a voice inside her scars. It whispered, deep and cold, they fear you. They will never trust you. But you do not need them. You need only me. Her breath caught. The voice was too clear this time, too alive. The officer noticed her stillness. "You hear it, don't you?" he demanded. "You hear the god." The guards shifted, ready to fire if she confirmed it. The woman rose to her feet slowly, her eyes calm but hard as steel. "I hear it," she admitted. The room froze. "But I am not its servant. I am its scar." The scholar's eyes widened. "Scar?" "Yes," she said firmly. "It left its mark on me, but marks are not masters. They are memories. I survived what others could not. That is all." The officer shook his head. "You are more than that. You are a weapon, and weapons are controlled or destroyed." Her gaze snapped to him, sharp as a blade. "No, I am not your weapon, and I will not be destroyed for your fear." For a moment no one moved. The guards held their weapons, but their hands shook. The scholar watched in silence, his mind racing with the weight of history being written before him. The woman stepped forward, each pace measured, her scars glowing brighter. The air thickened, charged with energy that did not belong to the room. The guards flinched but did not fire. Something inside them told them bullets would not matter. She stopped at the center of the chamber and lifted her head. "You want to know what I am? I am proof. Proof that your gods are not untouchable. Proof that a mortal can face them and live. Fear me if you must. Hate me if you must. But remember this. If it returns, I will be waiting." The chamber shook faintly as her scars pulsed. For an instant, it felt as though the being itself had heard her challenge. The lights flickered, the walls hummed, and the scholar whispered under his breath, "Even gods can bleed." The officer clenched his fists, but he did not order her death. Deep down, even he knew the truth. If she was destroyed, the galaxy would be left defenseless. At last, he lowered his head. "Then walk your path, human. But understand this, you will never be free. Everywhere you go, the galaxy will watch. Some will follow you. Some will hunt you. You are no longer just yourself. You are a choice the galaxy must face." Her lips curved, not into a smile, but into something heavier. "So be it." She turned, her steps calm, her scars still glowing faintly. The guards moved aside, uncertain whether they were obeying orders or instinct. The scholar bowed his head as she passed, whispering words that would later become legend. "The scarred one walks. The galaxy trembles." As she stepped out of the chamber and into the vast halls of the port once more, the crowd that had gathered fell into silence. Their eyes widened, their whispers stopped. They felt the weight of her presence, the hum of her scars. Some fell to their knees, some turned away in fear, but all of them knew the galaxy was different now. She walked forward, each step echoing like thunder. And deep inside her, the voice whispered again, softer this time, "We will meet again." Her answer, silent but steady, was clear, "Then I will be ready." And with that, she vanished into the stars, carrying not just her scars, but the burden of a choice larger than any world. The choice to stand, the choice to resist, the choice to prove that even gods could fall.